All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay. Today is just a discussion video about what I see from exotic cars, like when I go to car shows, and I've been to several car shows, and I've been going to a lot more lately because of the ERay. The ERay is popular to a lot of people, and when people see it, they instantly think it's a Z06, and then when they don't hear the engine, when I'm cruising in or whatever, they realize it's an ERay. And I'm talking about people who have like Lamborghinis, Ferraris. I'm not saying that they are wanting an ERay, but I'm more so talking to the people who look at like their favorite car could be very expensive. I like Lambos and stuff like that, Ferraris, but I wouldn't invest in one because I don't see the value there for me. And since Chevy released the Corvette, the C8 lineup, I should say, you have the Stingray, the ERay, the Z06, and the ZR1. You've got a great lineup for a person who wants an exotic car. So owning a 23 C8 initially, I'll say this, 99% of the people can go with a Stingray C8. It's going to be your best, most affordable option to get you into what is an exotic style car, and you're in the United States. So I love the design and styling of the C8. When I drove my Red Mist Metallic C8 everywhere I went, it was more as people were cheering and excited for some reason to see it. And some people obviously thought it was a Ferrari because I had the gray, default gray wheels on there because the wheels I wanted at the time were on restraint. But if you ever wanted an exotic car, one that just looks exotic, there are tons of cars out there that you can get pre-owned that are exotic cars, or cars that were once very expensive, $100,000+, and you could get into one, and the styling is probably still good enough to where a person might be fulfilled with that. And I don't know about so much performance or whatever, but there are a lot of cars like Lotus, and there's just a bunch of cars out there that really look expensive, and they definitely look very exotic, and they don't cost a lot either since they're pre-owned. Now, personally, I don't buy pre-owned cars anymore. If I decide to buy a car, I just like to order it. It's my personal preference. You have a personal preference on what you might want to do when you decide you want to pick up your next exotic or supercar. But the basis of this video is for people out there who might want an exotic car and you don't want to spend too much money. I personally feel like the C8 Stingray is probably the best option for a person who wants an exotic vehicle. I mean, it really looks the part and it drives the part too. The C8 Stingray is the best value right now for a person who's looking for an exotic car, a driver's car. It's fast. It looks the part. Its performance is great. It sounds great. The aftermarket world is really adapted to the C8 now. So you could buy a 1LT or a 2LT. And I think if you're into modifications, the 1LT is going to be just one of the best ways to go because it costs the least of these cars. And now a lot of these Stingrays are well under MSRP because they're everywhere. Like you literally have thousands of them on the road now. I don't see very many where I live at. I see maybe 2 to 3 every now and then. But in the bigger, real big cities in Dallas area, you're going to see C8 Corvettes everywhere. Stingrays, that is, everywhere. If you're planning on buying something, I would just pretty much, if you want an exotic type vehicle and you want to modify it as a C8 in the C8 lineup, I would definitely go with the 1LT, and you can do the aftermarket wheels, suspension, exhaust, carbon fiber somewhere, a body kit, just anything, and you are going to get the best look. I mean, it's going to wow you. Because when I go to a lot of Corvette shows now, and just shows in general, and there's C8s there, they get the most attention because, especially if they're highly modified, it's incredible what the owners are doing and what the aftermarket world has done for the C8 Stingray. It's incredible. My Stingray, personally, I love the way it looked. So I drove it as is, my 23. I love that color. And actually, I wanted the forged wheels for my order, but again, they were on restraint. So after telling them to just throw the default wheels on there, I was actually really happy with the way that looked because it did look more Ferrari-esque, So in the world of the exotics, I think the C8 Stingray is the best way to get into an exotic car, especially now, like I said before, with the prices down so low. I think that is your best option to get into an exotic car, and it just looks the part. It really does. The C8 Stingray is the best value. And honestly, before the price cuts and the deep discounts dealers are throwing out there, it was still the best bargain for an entry-level exotic type car. It just was it. It's always been that way as far as my opinion. I think the C8 Stingray is the entry level to exotics across the board for me. And again, there, like I said, there are other cars out there that you can get pre-owned that cost less that are actually considered exotics. But your first, I think everyone should have the pleasure and honor of building their first car, and just build it out your car that you might think you want to keep for a while, or just have some fun with it for a while. You should build that car to your spec, and then after that, if you're going to modify, do it all to where you're spec for you. So it can be a one of one for you. And it's nothing like pulling up to a car show or a car event and people are looking at your car. What are you going for? You're going to be seen at a car show. You want to be seen. You want another car guy to address your car and say, whoa, man, that is clean. What did you do? How did you do that? Because the car scene is really about us getting ideas from each other and just kind of capitalizing and building the conversation and building on each other and motivating each other to do something new or different or fun or whatever. So, I think the C8 Stingray is for 99.9% of the people out there who want an exotic car and who might not, whose budget might not be that they want to spend. Not that people don't have the money, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have the money, or at least have good enough credit to finance it and take care of it or whatever. But that C8 Stingray has always, to me, been just the best entry into an exotic world for cars. And I'm glad Chevy went with the mid-engine for the C8. There was a lot of pushback. Even I was like, man, at that time, I didn't have a Vette before I bought my C8 was my first Vette, because all the Vettes that I wanted to actually own, the sellers weren't selling them, and or the price were really, it was really up there. And I was like, yeah, I'm just not willing to invest that much money into a pre-owned car. And so when they came out with the C8, it was inevitable. I got the third generation of it to let it get going or whatever. But in the end, it's more of you want an exotic car. Like, there's someone out there that wants an exotic car and they're looking at the money. You compare what the C8 Stingray offers to Lamborghini, Ferrari, and all these other things. The C8, the price alone, just, you wonder how GM is able to do this. It's just a phenomenal value. So I'm glad that they went with the mid-engine and brought the C8 the way they did. Lots of pushback at the beginning initially, but people realized quickly, man, that C8 is smoking a lot of the previous generation Corvettes. Factory stock, no options, just done. So if you're a person who wants to get in, Stingray is the best bet. And you will look the part, you will feel the part, you will enjoy the part. You will really enjoy yourself in the Stingray C8. Now, if you want to move forward to more of a track-oriented, or your patent budget starts to disappear and you just really want something, you don't need it, but you just really want it, you want to move past it, and you really want one of the fastest and most original, you're going to go with the Z06. The Z06 is an icon already, but the fact that GM did a first flat plane crank V8 in the Z06, high revving, it's incredible. Amazing vehicle. Track oriented, extremely track oriented. And, you don't really care about fuel economy, because on the Stingray, you're going to get amazing fuel economy for an exotic car like that in a sports car. But the Z06, not so much. You're not going to get the best fuel economy, but you're going to have one of the most powerful and one of the most original cars that's a Corvette on the market. The Z06 is an icon. will always be an icon. And this new generation in 2023, they brought this out. It just shut the world down. It was in such high demand. Dealers were on their greed thing again with this 20,000, 100,000. I saw Z06s in my face like this. Just, I'm in front of me. I've seen people pay $100,000 markup, and I'm blown away. They're driving off in a car, paying $270,000 financing it, and it's already not even worth half of that. But the point is, that's the demand of the Z06. Now, current day, you don't have to worry about those markups in a lot of places. There are places still marking them up. There are people that have been waiting for years just to stay at MSRP to get one of these cars. So the Z06 is full on. You're going to show up at the show, and every time I'm at a show or a meetup, anything, and someone has one of the new Z06s, the 23s or 24s, it's a shutdown. Like, people flock to that car because they want to see that engine. And they're just in awe of the options that you can do from the factory. The Z07 package, that's a factory option. And it's amazing what you can do with that from GM directly. And I think the Z06 will always be a showstopper because of that high revving exotic sound. You cannot duplicate that sound on any other C8. It is just not possible because we do not have the 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. That is where that engine sound comes from, the exhaust sound comes from. And that's just one of the best selling points that I hear from a lot of people. They say, man, I got that because of that exotic sound. And that's okay. A lot of people have their own reasoning as to why they wanted to buy whatever. But the Z06 itself, these new Z06s are blazing fast on the top end, just factory. Some people really, like, there's that guy who wants to modify every car he gets. I modify cars not to the point where I start to avoid warranty parts so early on in the purchase. That's really what it is for me. I don't want to avoid as many parts on the car too early on in the purchase. So, I'll sit back and just do an exhaust or suspension or something like, cosmetics or something like that. But to each his own. But the Z06, raising the bar, because it's more than double the price or almost double the price of a C8, depending on how you spec it. And the Stingrays, not C8, the Stingrays can be upwards if you start to go to the 3LTs. I've seen Stingrays sell for $180,000 just because it's a 3LT and they went with a convertible and they bought every option possible, or they did a 3LT coupe and they still bought a lot of options. I know people currently right now with Stingrays that are well over $100,000. They love the Stingray. So when it comes to the Z06, you're looking at about $120 just to buy one. So if you feel like that's too much, you can get a Stingray for $60. It's totally possible now by today's standards. You can easily get the same car minus the performance and the sound and the looks. The looks on the Stingray are still sweet. But if you really are that fanatic or that enthusiast and you love the Z06 line, or what stands behind that Z06 brand and name, you're gonna go for the Z06. And at that point, I think you don't really have a budget. When you start to look at cars over $100,000, I don't think most people they care about their budget, but it's a little bit more free because they're able to do it. And so they're not really thinking about pricing and financing. Most of the polls of the people that I talk to, they pay cash for their cars like I did. They said, I don't want to finance at that horrible rate. It's not going to happen. Plus, I can't afford a monthly payment because of my retirement. There's all kinds of reasons. I personally would rather just pay cash for something that's very expensive, especially if I don't need it, because I don't want to take on another bill. And I guess I'll talk about that at some point in another video. People often ask, how do you afford these things? And how did this happen for you? How did this happen? How can you get that? How did you pay cash for that? That was $100,000. I don't take it so much as pocket watching. I think some people might be influenced by it, but just don't chase money. It's going to come and go. And I'll talk about that later, but I don't so much chase money anymore. I did as a younger man, but it's different once you get some age on you. You start to really look at how things work. You know that you can lose a lot of things chasing money. And I'll stop right there. So, the Z06, wonderful, always be an icon. and I looked to purchase a Z06 one day. I could actually go get one now, but I have the next car I want to talk about, which is the ERay. And the ERay is for that person, that lady or man, woman or man who's has that freedom to get a Z06, or who's just not interested in the race aspect or the performance aspect of the Z06, but you still want some performance. And so the ERay is the first of its kind, and it is a all-wheel drive, partial electric, and gasoline car. Now, the ERay definitely has the speed and performance of the Z06, but it's essentially a Stingray on steroids, with a Stingray with a supercharger, I guess I'll say. Hard to put it into words, but I get all the perks, and ERay owners get all the perks, and if not more perks than some Z06 owners, because some Z06 owners actually have the carbon ceramic package and stuff like that. But the ERay is such a good middle child. It's the grand sport of the C8 lineup at the moment. But the weird part is that it matches some of the performance numbers and exceeds the performance numbers on the Z06. So GM had a tough time. I think GM probably dialed it back because Z06s are loved by the world. We all love Z06s. And if they would have brought the ERay out with a 4.5 kilowatt hour battery, which they could have, or just anything higher than the 1.9 kilowatt hour battery, it would make Z06 owners very frustrated if the ERay is running a 10 flat in a quarter mile and really surpassing, and they might pull away from the Z06 line as well, because there's already Z06 owners that have left their Z06 for an ERay for reasons like comfort, daily driving, and things like that. And the ERay is such a well-rounded Corvette. I got all the performance, and I got great fuel economy and all the luxuries of a touring car, i.e. Grand Sport. So the ERay coming along is slowly but surely winning over a lot of Corvette owners. It's just inevitable, because when I step out and I pull the ERay out, it's even now, even though the car it's not as popular anymore, but it is popular because there's not a lot of them on the road yet. That's really the only selling point right now, I guess, for me, or I guess winning point, if you are, or a point that's a high point for the ERay at this point. Now that I've been driving it, I got 1,200 miles on it or whatever, and it's really still a wow to me when I'm pulling into a meet and people are still in awe because they've never seen one in person. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I should understand this, but everyone can read them online and watch videos online, but seeing it in person for some reason is a big excitement for a person. People get really excited. And even though it looks like a Z06 and has the same interior as the C8 lineup, they're more in awe that it's actually cruising past them with no sound. And they're just in awe at this, and seeing as though it's mine. I'm not over it, but I get excited. Energy is something that jumps from source to source. And if a person is really excited about it, it makes me get excited. I'm like, wow, I love it all over again. Like it's brand new. It's still brand new, but like that first initial bang that I got, when I was able to go past the break-in period, or when I first picked it up and I was like, whoa, that starts to come back every time I go to a car meet, because people literally are going to want to talk to you about it. They're going to sit and talk, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you have to be ready for that. You can't be, any kind of exotic vehicle or just a vehicle that intrigues people, you can't be the person that is so withdrawn, introvert, or just a person that's just don't want to be bothered with people. You can't be that person and drive an exotic car, because you're going to get people to walk up to you and just walk up to you and start talking. And you can't, you could say, excuse me, but then that's going to kill the whole vibe. And you create an aura, you create this, a hostile environment. But with these cars though, if you like cars, you're going to enjoy their conversation. You won't even realize you've been talking to them for an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you were just trying to get gas. Or you were at a meet and the meet's over and you're still talking to them. That's the way it goes. And your energy with a car like this, when you drive them, it's always heightened. It's always fun. Like when I get behind the wheel of this Corvette, this ERay is so much fun. And it's just so much more fun than my Stingray. Because Stingray owners often ask, how much faster is it? Is it really that much better? Is it that more exciting? And sometimes I just want to put them in the car and take them with me and just give them the keys and say, here, you judge for yourself. Obviously, I can't do that for everybody I meet, but that's the best way a person is going to learn about the ERays if they're able to get behind the wheel of one, because not a lot of people have test driven them because you can't test drive them. So it's more of I want to share with you. It's no purpose in having all these things that you really love and you're an enthusiast and you don't want other enthusiasts who can't experience it yet to not experience. You know what I'm saying? You want to show the love. I've had people give me the keys to their car all the time. Jump in. I'm like, oh man, I'm excited. This is the best thing in the world. But in the end, none of that matters because the Z06 owners probably don't have have a small budget. ERay owners probably don't have a small budget. Stingray owners might have a small budget, but they're more budget minded for their situation. Like, I really want a Z06, but I had to go with the Stingray because the pricing just was more in line at this part of my life. I would love an ERay, but I just can't get one right now. And I say that to say that the next person on the list is one of the highest enthusiasts that you'll ever meet, is a ZR1 owner. I don't think ZR1 owners have a care in the world about budget. And I don't think they care at all about fuel. They're buying that car because they want the best, or what GM has the best to offer at the moment. And it is the new 2025 ZR1. I look to own one. I just do. I'm already in talks with the dealer. I look to own one. I would definitely take that over my ERay. I mean, come on. It's a twin turbo flat plane crank V8, over 1,000 horsepower. That's just nuts. That thing runs the 9s with ease in a quarter mile. Low 9s or high 8s probably. But the ZR1 owner is the ultimate Corvette enthusiast, I say, because they have the capital, they have the funds to do what they want, and they have the luxury of having all that we have with all the power that GM can throw at it. So the ZR1 is the king. It's always been the king to me, I guess. But the new version has come to get their throne back because there hasn't been any ZR1s for years. And so now the king is back. And one day I look to own a ZR1. Yeah, I will own one of the newest body ZR1s because for me at this point in the game, I can only go what I consider up. It has to be an upgrade for me. Because this is all stuff. You won't find any of these things riding behind your Hearst unless someone else has got it now and it's theirs. They're not gonna park it at the gravesite and park all these things around the grave and say, hey, this is great. This is what he loved. No, they're gonna take your stuff, drive it, sell it, flip it, whatever, because it doesn't even matter anymore because you're on to the next life. So for me, I will own a ZR1. And I'm going to enjoy the crap out of it. I don't know if I were to keep the ERay or not, because I own my ERay. I'm pointing, like you can see what I'm pointing at. I did buy my ERay outright. It was, for me, and I guess I'll just talk about it in this video. For me, here's the truth about why I buy certain cars outright. I see the potential value in the ERay. So first thing, the main selling point is a monthly payment on a $122,000 car, $130,000 after taxes, a monthly payment on a $130,000 car. Let me get something here. Let me see if I can just put this into perspective for you. Just to kind of, this is what you would be looking at if you finance one of these cars. And I'm going to give myself a decent rate, I guess. So let's just see here. Here we go. Let's crack this thing up. And let's go to just bear with me here. Just bear with me here. This will be quick. So the car was $122,025. That's my sticker. Let's just say I financed for 72 months. Let's just say I was able to get a 5.99%, right? Let's just say I put down, first, let's say I didn't put down anything. And here's what the payment would be. It will be $2,000. This is what a 5.9%, 72 months. You can go figure this out yourself. Go to auto loan calculator, $122,025, 72 months, 5.99%, which is decent on a sports car like this. An expensive car, any car that's in above $75,000, $80,000, and you're getting in the fives, you're still doing pretty good. And I know this because my youngest son is a branch manager, and my nephew is a master's degree in accounting. So I get their advice on things. So no money down for where I live at. It's going to be $2,168.22. Now, some of you guys might say, man, that's a mortgage payment for a lot of people, depending on where you live. And you'd be right. That interest is about $25,000, a little over $25,000 in interest. Because the interest, you're going to get hit with some interest. So, hey, pay a little bit more, the interest goes away. Round up that payment to $2,200 a month, you start to slowly eat away at some of the interest. But a $2,168 payment for me per month, coming from someone who doesn't have a lot of debt, my current living situation is phenomenal. I have a new home, and my home was built 4 years ago. This place was built 4 years ago. I moved. Nonetheless, this new house that I had built from the ground up was built 4 years ago, and my mortgage is not it's not $2,000. My mortgage is less than half of that because of my interest rate. My interest rate on my house, I won't say exactly what it is, but it is less than 2%. How about that? So that means my mortgage, and then also I don't pay taxes. I'm a war vet. I don't pay taxes. So if I did pay taxes, this would probably be my mortgage payment because taxes where I live are extremely high. So if I did pay taxes, my mortgage would be about $2,000. But since I don't pay taxes, my mortgage is less than half of this $2,200 payment. It is very good for a brand new house because I got a really low interest rate. That is the driving factor for me for not financing a car at these rates. Even if I can put this to 0%, the payment is still going to be $1,800, a little more than $1,800. So let's go ahead and put this back to 5.99. And let's just say I put down $25,000. The payment is still at 5.99%, $1,754. That's still very expensive to finance the monthly payment. This is why dealers try to get you to talk about the monthly. They start saying, well, what can you afford? Because they want to jack up everything else to fit all this extra stuff in there to keep you at a payment that you want. So you never should be talking about monthly payments when you're dealing with a car dealer. You should always be talking about the final price out the door. Even if you're not going to pay that final price up front, you need to be talking about that. That's just the basics of buying a car. In today's age, never talk about your monthly payment. Always talk about the final price of the car. And then we'll talk about whatever else afterwards. How much I'm going to be for this car out the door. Dealerships hate that. I've already done a video on some buying tips, so I won't get back into that. But the point is, that was one of my driving forces. I'm not going to be paying more than my mortgage, so to speak, for $100,000 car. I'm just not going to do it. And then also, obviously you need to be able to, in order to be able to spend $130,000 on a car outright, you need to be able to do that comfortably. You can't do this and that's your last. That's not how you should do it. You're just not smart if you're doing that. You're spending your last on something that's a depreciating asset. You should not do that. So you need to be able, if you're going to do the cash route, you need to be extremely comfortable. Like you're not going to be hurting at all if you do this. And most of the people I talk to in the forums, they are at least 55, aging up to 85 or so in the forums. And I've learned that the people that are on the lower end, like the people that are closer to 55, they typically will finance some of the car. They'll pay off 2/3 of it and then finance a small amount. And the older gentlemen, they just get it outright. They've got it set in their budget with their retirement. They've got it figured out. And, I'm not 85, but I fall into more of I need to make sure this is budgeted properly, and I need to just make sure that I'm going to be good. And going into this car, I didn't really do that because I already know what I have. And I was like, I'm not going to be hurting by this much at all. So is it a big pill to swallow? Of course. The lump in my throat is huge. Like, why would I want to go from paying $73,000 for a Stingray and then go and pay $130,000 for an ERay? Like, that's almost double the price. So you've got to be conscious of this when you're buying these exotic cars and sports cars. They are depreciating assets, folks. They're going to lose value. And as much as we want to stay at the top, okay, the ERay might have some value right now if I sell it now. But if they don't make a lot of ERays, and, the ERay will go on sale too. You'll see ERays discounted at some point. Like if there's too many of them, they'll start to get discounted. But if they don't make a lot of them and the demand stays high for the ERay, that helps me, because then a year from now, 2 years from now, let's just say I can make $25,000 on this car. Who knows what's going to happen? We don't know. But nonetheless, I did not buy into any markup on this car, and I just got it for the sticker and paid for it. So that should be your end goal, is to be able to get some of these depreciating assets without financing. Now, I do finance cars. My 24 Model Y is 0.99% financing. That's the reason I did that, because that's like a freebie. Over the course of that loan, it's only $14 in interest, pretty much $14.56 in interest. That's a phenomenal deal. Why wouldn't I just do that at 0%? Basically 0.99%. That's a gimme. I will do 5% if I get in so I think I told you when I bought the ERay, they were like, oh man, your credit's excellent. And I did it just to see, because I don't want to pay outright if I don't have to. If I could get it at 5 or less by today's market, I'm going for it, because I have a lot of things that are 0, 1%, I have a lot of stuff like that. So, if I could have gotten my Stingray and financed it at a pretty decent rate, I would have done that. I'm not stupid. Like, I don't want to pay all this money out of pocket for a car. I mean, come on. Like, no, I don't care how popular it is. I don't want to do that. So if I could have gotten my ERay at a 5 or less, I would just pay the monthly payment on it or whatever, because it is a lot of money. But the flip side of that is I would need that payment to be as close to my mortgage or less. Because if I'm going to pay, if anything is going to be set in stone, it's always paid, it's going to be my mortgage. Hands down. All this stuff, I'm running into a roadblock. This stuff is gone. It's gone. My mortgage is way more important than my car. So, with that said, I would have probably put down half of the car's pay, half of the balance of the car, or maybe 2/3 of the car, or even 90 or 80,000, 75, just to get the payment really low, and just kicked it like that for whatever time, and then just paid it off probably. But I think that might be a driving force for a lot of people, the monthly payment. And so the people that I talk to online, most of them are up in age. They feel like they're not going to be here much longer, so they're just kicking it. They're like, I'm going to buy this. I'm not having a monthly payment. Their houses are paid for. Things like that. And even though I have a really low mortgage payment on a brand new house built in 2020, I still pay more. I still pay extra. Even though I have a really low interest rate, I still pay more just to get it gone. I'm paying my house off, 30-year mortgage, paying it off in 19 years, I think it is. Yeah, that's pretty good, because I pay extra. It's just eating away at the interest. And my financial advisor, that's a good thing. Always pay extra on your mortgage. And it's even better for you because you have a low mortgage payment. You have a really low interest rate. You're doing really good. This house will be paid for probably less than 19 years. I don't know. But nonetheless, Corvettes, exotics. The C8 Stingray is your best option. If I didn't have a Stingray already, and this would have been my first vet, it would have been a Stingray, because that's where I was at last year. So for me, my next step in a Corvette is going to have to be the 2026 ERay, the one that's going to be 1,000 horsepower or 900 horsepower, or it's going to be a ZR1 in 2025 or early 2026. And I'm shooting for the fence. I believe I can do whatever I want to do. I can obtain what I want to obtain because that's what I was told. I can do all things through you know who. So, and that's the way I live. So I don't see these things as unattainable. Anything is possible. So you just have to tell him what your plan is. If it's a go, he'll let it go for you. If not, you sit back and wait. So I'm comfortable right now with my ERay. I think the Stingray is your best option. The Z06 is for the hardcore, I'm going to the track everyday person, obviously. The ERay is a well-rounded, you want to go to the track possibly, but you're really into just having that power at your disposal and reaping all the rewards of the regular base Stingray models or the Stingray models. But that ZR1 is the king. So it's your man Jay. What do you think about exotics for the United States? I think the C8 Corvette is the only option for a lot of people who want to get into, not the only option, the best option for a person who wants to get into an exotic car and they're from the United States. This is it. I don't see anything else in my window or my view that can touch the C8 Corvette lineup as an exotic sports car for people who live in the United States. It's your man Jay. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.